That's a lot of years. Do you have a job? How do you afford to live/pay rent? No job. I do this full time. I afford rent by not paying rent. I'm constantly couch surfing and cat sitting at other people's apartments. I have about 40 different cats I've watched at this point, and I think I've stayed at almost 100 different apartments. Hey Matt, I love this idea. Are you aware of William B. Helmreich, a sociology professor at CCNY who has done the same thing as you? I think you two should meet up at some point. Oh, and what's been your favorite street that you've walked down so far? Yeah. We actually walked together some, and he's featured in the documentary. Favorite street? The next one I walk? What kind of shoes do you wear and how long do they last? Hiking boots. I can get around 1,000 miles per pair, and then I can get the heel replaced and tack on a few hundred more. Whatever you find comfortable, just buy the same type of shoes over and over so you build up calluses in the right places and never get blisters again. 1. Your favorite neighborhood in NYC, or 2. Where did you feel most unsafe? I've honestly never felt unsafe doing this walk. But I had already lived in NYC a while when I started and had spent lots of time exploring different neighborhoods, so I had learned that stereotypes about dangerous places are generally rooted in very little other than fear. Of course, as both white and male, it's often less risky for me to be in different areas than it might be for someone else. What do you think of NYC's walkability and transportation policies now that you've seen so much of it in person? I feel like basically everywhere's walkable if you want to walk it. The harder it is to walk, the more fun it is in many ways. But that's a somewhat glib answer coming from someone who's young and able-bodied. One time I had to get an electric wheelchair from the Rockaways to the Upper West Side for a friend I was staying with, and it was amazing how a totally new world opened up to me. I had scoured the street for sidewalk ramps that weren't broken and that didn't empty into big puddles. I had to take a ridiculous subway route because there are so few elevators and a decent number of the ones that are there are out of service at any given time. Sometimes the lip of the train entrance was too high above the platform and I had to get out of the wheelchair and lift the monstrous thing with all my might to get the wheels over the lip. So I realized how easy it is to take all that for granted when you're in good health and just out having fun. What is your favorite block? Or top 3? Favorite block? The next one I walk? Are you walking right now? Hey, I'm tippin' here. In a city famous for being in a hurry and people minding their own business, have you seen any random acts of kindness that stand out? Totally. People are in a hurry but also love the feeling of helping. It's amazing how quick people are to respond to someone dropping something on the sidewalk or falling down. I've had random people ask me for help while I'm walking and it always feels great. I helped an old lady in Staten Island carry her groceries into her house. I helped a guy with back spasms and a walker up the stairs to his walk-up apartment in Kew Gardens. I turned on the AC for a Hasidic family in Borough Park on a surprisingly warm Yom Kippur. How would you best summarize Staten Island? Most people would be shocked by the diversity of Staten Island. Not just ethnically, mostly on the North Shore, but also in terms of landscapes and wildlife. It's got the highest point on the eastern seaboard south of Maine. I've seen seals there. Bald eagles. Wild turkeys. Hop on that ferry and go. How many water bottles a day do you consume to stay hydrated? Depends a lot on the season. I can drink almost nothing on some wintertime walks, but summer is a whole other world. I generally opt on the side of moderate dehydration to avoid constantly having to take a whiz, and then I just drink a ton when I get home at the end of the day. I always carry a water bottle and refill it at water fountains, public bathrooms, bodegas, open fire hydrants, etc. Also, what was the weirdest / creepiest / scary / risky situation you've stumbled on while you walked? If you were to describe your experience with one song, what would it be? Finally, have you ever been to Europe? Or if not, how would you compare walking in New York with different places? I've never felt personally at danger in the moment. But there was one time when I was in the South Bronx and a police officer saw me walking around and asked me what was in my back pocket. Unthinkingly I pulled out the water bottle I was carrying, only realizing halfway through that he thought I was carrying a gun. He was completely startled that I did that and recoiled in surprise. If I weren't a white dude and he had perceived me as a threat from the beginning, that situation could have ended very differently. And #X200B, the shocking thing I realized doing my cross-country walk and then this NYC walk is that when you're walking merely for the sake of paying attention and appreciating what's around you, it doesn't matter where you're walking. Walking across North Dakota feels the same to me as walking in NYC. It doesn't matter what I'm looking at, it's the act of paying full attention that makes the experiences almost identical. And #X200B, one song? That I would walk 500 miles song, looped 18 times. Are your calves made of steel now or did you decide to artificially enhance yourself? They were steel but I got an automatic upgrade to titanium after 5 years. What is your consensus on the way people are? Is there a lot of rude people out there or have you found that there is a lot of kind people in the world? This deserves a much longer answer, but the bottom line for me, and what I've heard from essentially everyone else who has traveled extensively outside their comfort zone, is that people are much kinder than we give them credit for. On my cross-country walk, there were so many people whose political views couldn't have differed more from my own, but whose kindness in feeding a random stranger and letting him stay with them, I knocked on doors asking if I could camp in people's yards each night, was constantly overwhelming. I was reminded again and again that people can't be defined as good or bad and that we're all a huge jumble of contradictions and conflicting urges, capable of both great kindness and great cruelty. And when it comes down to helping a particular person standing in front of you, I think 9 people out of 10 veer toward kindness. How many times have you been murdered? Less than 1. What's the weirdest thing that you've stepped on or over? I so want to have a good answer for this, but it's eluding me. I carefully stepped over 2 grizzly raccoon carcasses one day in Greenwood Cemetery. Why didn't I go around? Because they were right on my intended route and I'm really anal retentive. Do you ever plan to return to a formal workspace? After, presumably, years of schooling and work, do you miss using the engineering skills you spent so long developing? I don't plan on it, but I don't have much of a plan to speak of, so who knows? I do feel like I'm still using the heart of my engineering skills: observation, attention to detail, critical thinking, problem solving. Walking is such an amorphous thing that I think you can bring all of your own characteristics and abilities to bear on it and do it in your own unique way. Do you ever get lonely or wish you had a partner walking with you? An unexpected thing I've learned about walking is that it's a very flexible medium for expressing your emotional needs. I'm a pretty introverted person, so I love the quiet days when I keep to myself. But when I'm feeling chatty, I can just stop and talk to people. Whatever my state of mind is, I can get what I need out of the day through my walking. How much did you save to enable you to always be able to eat? I get that you couch surf, but that doesn't really explain how this is possible. I saved a good amount, like tens of thousands. I also bring in a little money through donations to my blog and doing talks and stuff like that.